Hello, everyone. We're so glad to have you this week at our weekly webinar series. And we're inviting Emily Shoup to come and talk with us today about coaching to boost performance. We are Business Performance USA. We're an online business information exchange. And what we do is we offer these weekly webinars to talk about insights. Give you insights into a variety of business topics. Today will be about coaching and leadership. And you can join us each week at this time and hear about a variety of topics. We welcome Nancy Roberts back next week on the topic of background screening. So we hope you'll be back and we hope you'll be watching us as we put these webinars on. You can become a member and engage in this business conversation at no cost to you. It's basically executives who are volunteering their time. And our executive volunteer today is Emily Shoup, and she's Shoup Training and Consulting, and she's out of the Northeast, and we're so glad to welcome her today. I am Cynthia Stewart. I am your partner in building tomorrow's businesses today, and I will be your host for today. Um, we will be wanting to make sure that this hour is worth your time. So please be sure to ask questions. You can use that question feature on the control panel and just type a question out, and I'll be monitoring those while Emily is talking. And at the right point, I'll be posing those to her. So that gives you a chance to be sure and participate today and interact with us you can watch this webinar and all the others that we've recorded just by signing up at businessperformanceusa.org. You can also check us out on youtube.com at userbpusa.org. I do encourage you to participate. It's very, very helpful. Now let's talk a little bit about Emily. Emily is quite a goal-getter. I met her several years ago as she was launching her business, Shoup Training and Consulting, and she has basically started her career, believe it or not, in very large corporations as well as universities as a network engineer. And she grew to become a manager of network engineers and later an assistant director of technology before founding her company over 3 years ago. And during the course of her career, she realized that really it was people that were her passion, not so much that engineering techie stuff, although I can verify that she is quite good at that. She began to focus her efforts on developing not only her own people skills, but those of others around her as well. And now she has become a speaker and a coach and an entrepreneur. And she created Central Illinois' premier team building event called Operation Our Town, which really helps you rally your team. And it's been very successful over the last few years. She also has developed popular programs such as Lead Any Team and the Shoup Shift. I love that. The Shoup Shift. 6 gears to revolutionize your culture, team, and leadership. Over the past few years, Emily has received the honor of being asked to contribute to her writings to ManagingAmericans.com and the Unstoppable Women's Guide to Emotional Well-Being, among many other things, as well as receiving a great number of awards for her outreach. You'll find her insightful, engaging, and energetic, so we can't wait for her to get started. And with that, Emily, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton to you. I hear you.
Okay, I'm
Now we just
here.
have to make sure we see your screen.
I clicked OK. Do you see it?
I hear you talking, but oh, there it comes. Yay, we're up. Very good. With that, I'm going to mute and let you take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Um, it is always funny. I always get nervous when people find out that I have a technology background because I do not want to fix your computer. Although I probably could, I don't want to do that anymore. Um, and one of the things that I like to make sure that people are aware of before we go into a deep dive into our topic today, which is going to be all about coaching your team and really going from managing the mundane. I see a lot of people get stuck in managing the task list, the to-do list, the this is what we need to get done, and that's not really what managing is all about. That kind of gets you stuck in a glorified worker bee mode when you're just stuck with that task list mentality. And so you really want to be moving into leading for great results, and coaching is a great way to start getting into that mode a lot more. A little bit more about myself before we do our deep dive. My philosophy is very much people focused. When I became a manager for the first time, I really thought that I had arrived. I thought I'd finally made it. This was what I'd always wanted to do, and I was going to do everything perfect, everything by the book, everything that I'd ever learned, and everything I always thought every manager had done wrong beforehand. I was going to do it right. So we had all of the perfect meetings, we had the agendas, we had the learning opportunities to grow my staff to be well-rounded employees. We had our performance reviews on a regular basis. We made sure that we were meeting all of the goals that other teams had set for us. We were making sure that we were always on time with things. Our status reports were top notch. All of that. Um, and I thought that we were doing pretty well, and we were getting a lot done, and it was fine. But then I got a call from a colleague of mine, and she had just had her annual performance review, and she was just distraught, and I felt awful. I couldn't figure out why she was so upset. So she was telling me about her last performance review, and basically this very high performing employee had been given low marks because she wasn't expanding in areas that she was weak in. And her performance review focused on all of the things that she wasn't doing well. And it had just crushed her. And so she's telling me her story, and then she tells me, I'll never forget it when she said, Emily, I just wish that they would accept me for who I am. And that just really set me back because I realized that I was doing the exact same thing to my people that her manager was doing to her, and I just felt like I just sunk back into my chair, like, oh no, I've done the same thing. And from then on, I started to shift all of my focus on my people to each individual and what they really needed in order to do well, what they really were good at, and what they wanted out of their career. I was taking highly technical people and trying to help them with their public speaking skills, if you can imagine that. For me, that makes a ton of sense because look where I ended up. I love public speaking, but most of my team had no desire to get out and meet new people. They didn't want to stand in front of a room. They just wanted to do the work. And the more I focused on coaching them and developing them as individuals, the better results I got. And it turned into a point where we had the team that people were either begging to be on, which was very nice. I had a line of people who, if I ever had an opening, they were ready to come aboard. I had people trying to steal my employees, which is always interesting in a large organization when somebody's trying to swipe somebody out from underneath you. And then I did have other managers that were asking me, what's the difference? What have you done? How are you guys such a great team now? And I took that philosophy and I applied that into my other roles as I grew into my director roles. And it's just been being that super people focused has been really the difference for me. And so that's what I like to teach about and work with other leaders as you grow into your positions as well. And it's really what helps you keep you from managing all those task lists and just keeping a good calendar. It keeps you away from that and into that really strong leadership role. So most people, when I start working with them, they usually tell me they think they have pretty good leadership skills, pretty good people skills. They've gotten by, but there's always something that they wish that they were doing better. They're just not quite sure what. And they're usually thinking, I could probably get a little bit more out of my people, but I'm just not sure how to even get that done. We're so busy already. How do I get more done? In this presentation, this webinar for you guys today is really going to help you figure out some of those things that you can do to help pull out a little bit more out of your team without adding more to your to-do list, and really focus on how you can coach to boost performance. One of the statistics that I like to share with people is one that I find actually quite scary. And I know there's a lot of scary statistics out there about, what's in our food and politics and all that. But for me, the fact that 69% of U.S. employees are either not engaged or are actively disengaged is a very scary statistic. It is, if you look at that, if you had just 10 people on your team, that would mean about 7 of them are either checked out or they're trying to sink your boat. That is very scary. And we all have higher demand and fewer resources. That is the new normal. But what it comes down to is the manager or the leader of any given team is where everybody gets their level of engagement from. It's not from the owner of the business necessarily. It's not from all the other perks that your HR team might offer. It's all from the direct person that they have to interact with day in, day out. And so that's why it's really important that we work on our skills as leaders. And one of the other statistics that I found was that of the 75 possible drivers of engagement, the one that was rated as the most important was how the extent to how much people thought that other people, especially their manager, had a sincere interest in their well-being and in their career. And so out of all the other factors, money, flexible hours, all those other things, it really came down to, does anybody care about me as an individual? And to me, that just backs up what I found is that the more I focused on each individual, the better things got. So let's dive
Emily,
in. Yes.
Emily, I'm sorry to cut you off. This is Victor Dominguez, and welcome everybody. I just doing a quality check here. Should there be a slide changing? Or,
Nope.
okay.
Nope, we're good.
Then I doubly apologize.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay. There. The baggage one is our very first slide here. And so coaching for individuals has been proven to decrease turnover and really increase loyalty and employee engagement. And the first place that I like to start with when anybody is going to start coaching their employees or go a little bit deeper with their employees, and for me, when I very first started, we'd never been coached as individuals, so it was really, where do you get started? And where I like to start with is removing any baggage. Everybody comes to the situation with their own baggage, with their own perceptions, and it's usually anytime you try to bring something up new to a team or an individual, you hear, this is the way it's always been. So what I like to do is when you look at coaching, we're changing to the new way and how we want it to be by design. How do we want our team to be growing and the individuals to be performing? Not how has it always been, but how do we want it to be? And so if we can remove any of that baggage and let it go and forget about the past and move forward and paint the picture of how we want to move forward, that is where we're going to start to have success. So if in the past you've been managing your team like I had been with these deadlines and you need to grow in this area and that area and this other area that doesn't fit you at all, I had to let them know that it was going to be okay, that now I was switching things on them and saying, you know what, we're not going to worry about public speaking for you. We're going to work on this area of technology, which is way more important for you as an individual. It's way more important for us as an organization than whether or not you can speak publicly. And if you don't remove the baggage, a lot of times you end up with the same results because people are just not sure of what's going on, and it's much easier to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And it really ends up making it so that you kind of end up frustrated with the process if you haven't gone through the step of saying, I know this is how it used to be, but this is how we want it to be, and really sticking with it. So you're going to wipe the slate clean, you're going to write it down, vet, do whatever you have to do to get it off your chest about how it used to be, and let your employees do the same. And then you're going to choose from now on that this is what it's going to be like. This is how we want it to work. And so for me and my different roles, it was, I want my staff to always be telling me what the latest and greatest technology is that they want to learn. And I set it up where they were constantly looking for that so that they could let me know that, hey, here's the next thing I want to learn. And then what I did is held space for them to grow in that area. One client that I was working with was trying to take on, the manager, John, was trying to take on a coaching role, and he had had a rough relationship with one of his staff members, Terry, and Terry was a decent performer, but she wasn't getting the results that he wanted. And so what he had to do, and through working together, I had to get him to let go of, well, this is the way she's always worked in the past, and I had to get her to let go of, well, I've always been just dictated what to do, to, all right, now here's how we're going to work together in this coaching mode. And it took a little while, but the two of them had to work together in order for that relationship to work, for the coaching to work. So that's why I always want to make sure that people realize when you start to dive into coaching, if it's new, you can be met with some resistance.
So, Emily, do you have any techniques to recommend for eliminating baggage? I know that people carry baggage and they seem to need to somehow move it on and they want to move it on. But what have you found works in helping people move on baggage, especially in relationships of the people that they're working with so closely?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing um, for my clients has been the opportunity to be heard and to vent it, just to get it out. Um, because a lot of times they're coming from a place where, um, or at least the one example that I gave, they were coming from a place of, they were scared, there were cutbacks, things were tense in the organization. There was a lot of, drama, really, for lack of better terms. And they just needed somebody to acknowledge it and say, yeah, it was like that and it sucked, but now we're going to try to move on. And so for a lot of the people that I ended up working with there, it was just somebody just hearing their story and getting it out there. So what I usually have a manager do then is sit down and just let the person talk and say, this is what was going on, and let that person be heard. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So the next step then is seeking to understand. And a lot of people, when they move into management, and I fell into the exact same trap, is you start to think that it's your job to tell people what to do because you're the boss now. That seems logical. But it's really not if you want to be any kind of leader that gets really good results. Um, as a leader, with or without your title, it's important to make sure that you're making all the connections with your team, knowing what motivates them, and knowing what's going on with their lives, and really digging deeper. And that kind of ties back into with removing the baggage. It's human nature to want to be understood. And when you don't understand the bigger picture of what's going on for that individual, for their growth in their career or in their personal lives, a lot of mistakes and misinterpretations are made. And it can get kind of confusing when you're asking somebody to do something and you're not getting the results that you thought you should get from that conversation. And that's where I like people to step back and really try to understand what's going on in that individual's whole life as much as possible. And in order to do that, you really just need to start asking questions. And then the real trick, the really big secret part that I see people, just that magic wand where they're just stumbling, is when you ask those questions, you have to listen to the answers. I know a lot of people ask the questions, but they've never actually heard the answer. And it seems so simple, but I've seen it time and time again where people just didn't listen to what the people were saying to them. And again, I've made those mistakes too. When I was trying to build my network engineers into being more well-rounded, they told me they didn't that made them uncomfortable, and I thought I was just pushing them to go outside their comfort zone. There's a difference between helping somebody grow outside their comfort zone and pushing them into something that they're just never going to be strong in. So you want to find out when you're working with people, is it is this thing that's going on stressing them out? Are they just having a bad day? Or is it something with they're just kind of not morning people? You just can't really ask them questions in the morning. What can you do to be helping them? My favorite question to ask is, what can I do to help you right now? What can I be doing as your leader to help you right now? And it usually throws people off when you first start doing it, but the more you do it, your staff starts to look forward to that, and they start to come up with those answers better and on the fly, or they start coming to you before you ask those questions. And so you always want to engage and be engaging. And I know those sound like buzzwords right now, you know, buzzwords du jour, but it's really it is on the leader to be engaging. And I think there's so much focus on the employee to be engaged, but how much is the leader being engaging? And I had one large client that I was working with, and we had a group of leaders in the room, and it it was the funniest thing to me. I felt like all day I was just kind of not getting through to one of the people that I was working with, and I was trying to reword everything every which way I could. I just was really struggling, and then finally she stopped and she said, "So it's my job to care if my team is happy?" And I felt like the skies had parted and the sun was shining down on us. And like, yes, absolutely. And that was a huge breakthrough for her because she had extremely high performing employees that they weren't disengaged, they were leaving the company. And so I was brought in because they couldn't figure out what is going on. We have this great person, she was a great analyst, made her a manager, and then she was running a team, and all of the great analysts that were underneath her kept leaving. Either they would completely leave the company, which two or three of them had, or they were finding other places within the company. And it turned out that she didn't realize that was part of her role to be engaging. And after that, I did actually run into her out with her team for lunch. That was awesome, and I have heard great stories of her actually getting to know her team and understand what they have going on. So seeking to understand is very important. Okay, the next step then that you're going to do when you're getting ready to coach the individual that you want to help them grow in an area in your business, something that they need to be working on, or an opportunity that you see for them. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to state your perceptions of what is going on. A lot of people think that they can just tell by looking at a situation what's going on. If somebody isn't getting a report done on time, well, they must have poor time management skills. If they're for some reason this project is taking 3 times longer than this, they must have too much work on their plate, and I should give away all their other projects. A lot of times people think that they can just look from the outside in, and really I'm guilty of it too. I like to do that when I go to the mall. You see the people having the conversation, and you can pretty much guess, or you think you can guess that, he got in trouble for spending too much money over there at that store, or he doesn't like the fact that she bought all those bags of clothes that you can see that she's carrying, or, you can make up all sorts of great, wonderful stories based on just sitting around watching people and how they are interacting at the mall. Um, but what you think you are seeing in the situation where somebody needs coaching, you might not always be accurate as to what's going on. So I always want to make sure that I'm sharing my interpretation. So when I look at a situation where the individual is underperforming or seems to need help focusing on the project that we're working on, that's what I start with and say, so what I see is that you're not meeting the deadline, or it looks like you are spending a lot of time in your office. I see you with your head down and that you look busy. Um, is it something that you need help breaking down the tasks with, or is it something else? Because that's what my interpretation and my perception is of the situation. And that gives the other person then the opportunity to say, no, that's not it at all. It turns out that this other manager also asked me to do this other project at the same time, and now I don't know what to do. Or I hit a stumbling block with the vendor and I can't move forward. Or I am waiting on a piece of information from another team member and they're not delivering it. So it really helps to make sure that you state your perceptions about what you're seeing in the situation. A common line that I like to say, and I'm pretty sure I learned this in middle school or a portion of it in middle school, but it's when you said or did blank, it seemed like, or I heard blank. Is that what you meant? And I'll repeat that. When you said or did blank, it seemed like, or I heard blank. Is that what you meant? And that has helped in many, many conversations that I've had and that my clients have had, because it really helps the person that you're getting ready to coach understand where you're coming from.
You make
Cynthia,
such
were
a
there any
good
questions?
Well, you make such a good point, and I'm seeing some chatter on that with regard to perceptions. And on the one hand, we seek to understand, but a lot of times we put our own assumptions in there as we seek to understand. And it's
Mm-hmm.
better to actually, I agree with you, confirm your perception. So no questions, but just a confirmation that you really need to confirm your perceptions, what you think you understand and what you see, to make sure that that's really what's going on. Because a lot of times I find the same thing. It isn't what's going on at all. And so that's great, Emily. It's a good point.
Thank you. One of my clients was having a lot of problems with conflict, and there were many times where people were the leaders, they had to jump in and try to diffuse the situation, and once I got them to start deploying, just saying, this is what I saw, you your back looked tense, your arms were waving, your voice was this way, and what the words I heard you say were this, and so that made me think that you were, upset or angry or whatever the term may be, or um, is that really what you meant? And there were a lot of times where the person didn't realize how they were coming across, and then they were able to say, well, no, that's not what I meant at all. And it was an opportunity for both of them then to figure out, okay, so how do we coach on handling this situation better, and how do we move past this conflict? But stating those perceptions first really gave everybody that groundwork to start from, like, here's what I see. Oh, got it. Okay, if that's the way it's coming across, here's how I know to respond. But when you just jump in and say, hey, I think you need to take a time management class, and it seems to come out of nowhere, it's a really hard thing for the person to understand. Okay. So, we're talking about understanding and asking questions and really being engaging, and we're stating our perceptions so that people can really understand where we're coming from. And then the next step, then, when you're really into your coaching, is you're going to ask and listen. And a lot of leaders I see fall into the same um, scenario where it's almost like a fear on the leadership side that they should just know everything that's going on. Because of the position that they're in, they feel this huge responsibility to just know. Like, I should just know. I've been given this role. Everybody's counting on me. I should just always know what's going on. And to me, that's a big, huge myth. And it's a dangerous place to operate from. you really want to always be asking questions and listening to the answers, and and just never stop, because that's how you're going to find out what's really going on. That's how you're going to find your opportunities to coach. That's how you're going to be able to help everybody move forward. And so your role as a leader is to engage, empower, and lead your team, not just tell them what to do. And if you're not asking those questions and listening to the answers, you again are going back to just making sure that that task list is done. You're just checking off, yep, they got this done, they made 100 widgets, talked to 100 customers. It's just really mundane. And so you really want to be digging in and asking questions all the time. And so maybe this is something we can kind of throw out to those of you that are listening right now, but what kind of questions should you be asking? And when is seeking input important in your business, in your team? And when is it not important? One situation that I was helping an individual with was he was a manager himself, and he was on a group of managers, and they were supposed to be working on this new initiative for their company together. And the leader of their team decided to go ahead and start a weekly meeting in the summer, recurring every Friday at 7:30 in the morning. That did not go over very well. And that was one of those things where they needed a high level of engagement with the team. Everybody needed to be giving their input on this initiative. It was mission critical, but yet nobody asked, or the leader didn't ask the team beforehand, what would it work with for them in order to be more engaged in this opportunity. And so there was a lot of battles over that, and eventually the meeting time did get moved. But imagine if the leader had gone into the situation and said, okay, I know I need to get these great results from my team. I know who's going to be on my team. Let me see what they think, or how do they think we should go about getting the results, instead of saying everybody's going to meet every Friday at 7:30 in the morning all summer long. And I think, and I know from the times where I've been able to deploy this, or have gotten other leaders to deploy it, when you ask, they might come up with 7:30 every Friday morning is the best time, but they have a completely different level of engagement when it was what really worked best for the team, and that they felt like they were listened to, and their opinions and all of those pieces were put into it. So what kind of questions could you be asking your team on a regular basis? Did we get any input, Cynthia?
I did not see any input. I do wonder, and it goes through my mind, this ask versus tell. And it is so typical, especially in a manager, from a manager, to believe that telling is always the best course forward because it's more expedient and more effective. So there's probably a fine line between asking and telling. Do you have any situations to talk with us about when it's appropriate to tell versus ask as a
Yeah,
leader?
yeah. There are times, obviously, the biggest indicator is urgency. So if it's mission critical and it's going to happen really soon, or now, or it's too late, kind of thing, then there is going to be more telling, and saying we need to get this done. We need to, crank this out. This is how it's going to go. Huge order just came in from our biggest client. We're going to drop everything and just crank it out. There absolutely are times, but it comes with that level of urgency, um, and how mission critical it is. Not necessarily for the, like with this the summertime meeting, they were going to be working on it all summer. So that's 3 months of working on something on a regular basis. That's a long time. And it's much easier to get more input before a long project like that. And at some point, you do have to put a fork in it and move forward, because especially with schedules, something like that, you could go back and forth for weeks and not find a time that works for everybody. But it definitely helps to start with getting some input and then moving forward. And the idea isn't to always make sure that everybody gets exactly what they wanted. Somebody could have said, we need to, I think the best way to move this project forward is to meet at the beach every Friday. Well, that's, you're not going to have to, you don't have to abide by every request. It's just engaging and listening to what people want to move the project forward. The other times that I've seen when it's really important to make sure that you're asking questions is when you're looking for opportunities to grow an individual. Um, if you're always asking, where do they want to be headed in their career? What kind of things do they like to be working on? What interests them? What drives them to come to work every day? All of those kind of things are very important to help you figure out where you could be coaching them. We had a situation where one manager I was working with, it turns out nobody knew that he wanted to get a promotion. And that was kind of scary. Here's somebody who thought he was working really hard to get a promotion and kept getting passed up for promotions. And it turns out nobody knew. He thought that his boss, his managers in the past knew, but it had not been relayed onto anybody else who could have made it happen for him. And the simple question of what do you want to be doing with your career would have been so beneficial for him. And so I was working with him, and so we had to work on different communication skills and kind of marketing yourself in his organization to recover from that. But as a leader, can you imagine if you found out that one of your employees thought they were working really hard, they always do really good on their performance reviews, and you thought that they just wanted to stay where they were and they were looking for a chance to grow and move on into a different role? That can be pretty scary because really it's just a matter of time then before that person finds somewhere else to go and grow. Okay, I'm going to check my time here. Oh, we're doing good. Okay. So the next step then when you're going to be working with an individual and you're coaching them is to choose your wording wisely. And I put Charlie Brown on there because I always think of his teacher and how they always did the wah, 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 and you couldn't understand a word she was saying. And I think that there's a lot of times when we're working with our employees that they don't understand a word we're saying, or we're just not seeming to get through to them, even though it makes total sense in our mind. And I kind of look at it with it's a little bit of marketing when you're trying to get your message or your point across to your employees. And one of the biggest things that I run into working with leaders is they'll say, well, they know what I mean. They know what I mean when I say this. They know what I mean when I say that. Or, yeah, that's not really what I meant, but they know, they should just be able to follow along. That's how I've always said it. And but it's very true that you can ask the same thing of two different ways and get completely different results. One of the fun things when I do my team building activity with people is I give people the same set of instructions and they're all typed out, and you'll get two different results every time, and it has to do with how people interpret things. And when you're coaching, it has to be specific to the individual who is being coached. You have to be specific to the individual who's being coached. And some people, like me, I like words that get me fired up. And some people really like to be fired up. So they like things like, you know, we're gonna reach this goal, and it's kind of like a go team, go get them, we can do this, I believe in you, let's rock it out, all those kind of things. And other people like softer, more encouraging words, and here's how it fits within the big picture, and your role is important to us. We'd like that you take your steady steps to move us forward, and here's what we need from you in this situation. Completely different message than knock them dead, right? And so as a leader, it's your job to know and understand how each of the individuals on your team is motivated best. And when I say that, I usually get some people to say, but what about when I'm talking to everybody? And what about my style? Well, when you're in a group setting, you definitely have your own style, your own dynamic, and presenting to everybody. But when you're doing the individual coaching, where you're trying to get that one person to grow in whatever area it is that you're working on, you're going to focus on what they need the most. One organization that I was working with, they were trying to get everybody in a team setting on board, and so I was there supporting the leader of the initiative, and she kept trying to say, basically the people had to get other people that weren't in the room on board with the idea, and the other people that weren't in the room were not their direct reports, they were other leaders within the organization. And so basically people that they had no authority over whatsoever. And the leader kept saying words like, I need you to hold them accountable for this initiative. And she kept getting such resistance, and she was really struggling with it. And she tried saying it different ways, but all it came out as, we really need to hold them accountable. And so I talked with her and I said, let me give it a shot. And so after working with the individuals, I said, what can we do to engage those other people and get them on board with us? And the day completely changed for everybody. Like, oh, well, I could give so-and-so a call, or I bet you, she would get on board if we told her this, or, they had all sorts of ideas to get the other people engaged or on board, but what they did not want to do is hold those other people accountable for something that they didn't feel like they had the authority on. And so when we just switched the mode, the result of the initiative is completely the same, but the wording was completely different, and that was key for them. So when you're working with your individuals, what wording works best for them? What wording will overwhelm them versus excite them? What wording will really resonate with them? Or what wording is it where like they're not even going to hear it? Like if you speak with, for me, if I get too many details and lots of numbers and it's very like black and white and there's no feeling or people involved, I'm checked out and I don't hear a word you say. So what kind of wording can you be using with people? Okay. And the next step along the way is to really realize that coaching is nonstop. I think, especially in larger organizations, I run into people who say, well, yeah, I had a coaching conversation with my employee at their performance review. Okay, well, how often do you do those? Well, we do them, we're supposed to do them every 6 months, but I do them about every 9 months, maybe once a year. And that's when you have those coaching conversations. Yep, that's when I do all my coaching. And so I like to remind people that we all, well, not, I can't say we all, a lot of us start January 1st with these great ideas of eating better and working out and exercising on a regular basis. And we cannot cram a year's worth of working out and vitamins and all the proper nutrition into January 1st and let it work for the entire year. Although a lot of us wish that it would work that way, it does not work that way. It has to go on a regular basis. And coaching is the same, because we're, as individuals, as humans, we're always growing and evolving, and we're running into different problems and different scenarios, and so our coaching should be nonstop. Our coaching as a leader should just be how you operate, not a thing that you check off your list. And so a lot of people really think that the best time to coach is going to just be during a review meeting. And really, I find that review meeting time, it's really not the place for a lot of coaching. It really tends to put the employee on guard. And so you really don't want to be focusing on it then, because the idea of the coaching is to get them to grow and move forward. And so what you want to do is to coach on a regular basis and make sure that you're building up the trust in what they say, in what you say. So the more that you're coaching and saying, hey, here's how you could be growing in this area, here's something I see you could be working on, and you're building that relationship on a regular basis, you start to grow a lot of trust with your team, and then they're willing to take a lot more risk on your behalf. So when so what you want to do is start telling them that you're creating a safe coaching environment, and you're just going to start to coach on a regular basis. Um, and you don't want to turn it on and turn it off. You just want it to be on a regular basis. And then that way they'll start to take action on what it is that you're saying. And remember, the goal is to get the desired result, right? Where you're coaching them to. If it's something where you're trying to groom somebody into a different role that matches their skill set better, what is it that you want them to learn in the next 6 months? Well, then you're going to be coaching them on a regular basis to get them to that goal so that everybody in the organization benefits from it. Coaching is how you're going to get them there along the way. So always be looking for your next opportunity to coach. Where's the next spot where, hey, maybe this person could run this meeting for me and step up in a leadership role? Or, hey, here's some new technology that this person could learn and grow it that way. Or, hey, here's a new marketing trend that person could go investigate and learn more about and share with us so that we know whether or not we need to know it. Coaching is always going to be nonstop.
Emily, I really do like your idea that we could do it just January 1, but I think I have to agree that it's a two-way dialogue too. It's engage just means exactly that. And so if you engage with your people, I mean, you're there working with them every day. So there must be plenty of opportunities to present, for teaching moments or learning moments on both sides. And I found that I'm being coached as well by my employees with how they respond and react. So I like your idea that it's a nonstop deal and not to forget that.
Yeah, it's something that because we all get overwhelmed with all the stuff that we have to do, and really, we tend to, as a leader, get our manager or our leader or whoever we're responding to is always, looking at the bottom line and our results and all of that. So then we start to carry that over to our staff, and that um, it really, once you start to looking at it as the coaching is gonna be how we get those results, it makes a big difference. Big difference. So when it comes to having your conversations, we've talked about all the pieces that you want to have in place, and how you're starting to coach the individuals. Um, and one of the things that I run into is that people really want to focus on giving feedback on just what's going on right now. And what I find is that feedback is really the feedback that you're going to be giving the individual. You're always going to look for that opportunity for growth, and it's not always what's above the water that needs to be developed. It's usually what's underneath the water, what you can't see, what else is going on, and the potential is always under the water. There's so much more there that can be that you can be helping the individual grow with, and so aside from looking at the basic skills, which of course you have to make sure that your staff is up to par, but usually what I find is that kind of takes care of itself. If somebody can't type and it's a position where they need to type, those kind of things weed themselves out. If there's basic skill sets you need in order to work within the organization, usually those kind of basic training opportunities are made available, and you're making sure that people are growing in those really every day-to-day opportunity or every day-to-day activities that people will be working on. But when I look at coaching, I like to take it deeper. I like to take it below the water. And so what can you be doing to help that individual really grow? And so is it somebody that is looking for a leadership position later on? If so, what kind of skill set do they need to be working on in order to be ready for that role? That's way different than just the day-to-day activities that they're doing. That's deeper. That's how they're interacting with people, how they're communicating, how many opportunities they're getting to lead in a smaller scale. so that they can always be growing in those areas. If it's an individual that is highly technical and they want to grow in their technical expertise, well, that's not always going to be the day-to-day stuff. And if we only focus on what they're doing day in, day out to get the job done, they're never going to have the time or the opportunity to grow technically into something deeper. So always looking for ways that the person can grow below the water. And another way to look at it, and I really like Undercover Boss for this reason. It's a fun show to watch, and of course, there's so many leadership lessons in there, and I just always want to reach through my TV and like smack the boss on the head and like, of course you need to talk to the person who does the work every day. Of course they have the ideas. But what it really comes down to is, when are we giving people the opportunity to problem solve? And so I like to look at coaching as an opportunity to teach people how to get better at problem solving. And the more we do that in our organizations, we get a lot more engagement. That always comes through on, if you ever watch Undercover Boss, the person who gets to solve a problem is that much more engaged with what they're doing. And then people start looking for that next solution and that next solution and that next solution. And you really start to snowball your results. So what can you be doing within your team where there's some problems that they could be solving in helping move the team forward? Is there something that they could be looking at into, is there an area in marketing where they can be looking at, our numbers are dropping in this area. What is something different we can be doing while we keep everything else moving forward as planned, meeting our goals? But what else is out there? And using those opportunities for people to be coached and to grow as an individual. And I really find that in the problem solving area is where it's really key and where you really get the best results. Because like I said before, people who see their solutions to a problem get implemented, they have that much more loyalty and that much more engagement in the team and in the organization that they're in. And so you want to be having the conversations, you're chatting, and I like to look at it as a chat where you're just having coaching chats on a regular basis. They're not huge performance reviews. They're just chats about, hey, what's going on? What do we want? What can we be working on? What's going on over here? Or hey, I saw this happen. Especially like if there was you needed to get some negative feedback. Just having those casual chats all along the way. But if you don't coach, if you don't touch base on these on a regular basis, it's going to be harder in the long run to get where you want to go. Again, if you look at it back to if we just all work out and eat all of our vitamins and all the right food January 1st, come December 31st, we're not going to be as healthy as we could have been had we been doing it all along. Same with your staff. If you're only coaching in performance reviews, you might get some great results shortly after that performance review, but it's going to fade. It's going to wear off. It's good. People are going to go back into their normal activities. We're going to forget that we even talked about it. It just kind of wears from there. And that kind of also can lead to a level of disengagement from your staff as well. If they were all excited about something that you're going to coach them on and then you never bring it up again, now you're kind of chipping away at that trust again and looking at them being like, well, are they really serious? Do they really mean it? Does it even matter? Should I not care until a week before my next performance review? And the idea is to get the better results all along and have happy, engaged people on your team. So coaching on a regular basis is absolutely imperative. Okay. So we've talked about a lot today, and I just checked the time, and we're about right on time here. But what I really want you to remember is that we're going to be, when you start your coaching conversation, you want to make sure that you remove any baggage, anything that people may be carrying with them for that particular topic that you're coaching on. You're really going to seek to understand them as individuals, what motivates them, what engages them, what is really important for them. When you're approaching a situation where you want to coach, you're going to state your perceptions to make sure that you are on the same page as the person who you're getting ready to engage in the conversation with. You're going to ask questions and really listen to the answers. That is the key, to listen to those answers. You're going to work on choosing your wording wisely and making sure that your message is being heard, the coaching is being received, and make sure that way they can do something with what you're telling them, so that you don't feel like you're wasting your time as well. And you're going to make sure that your coaching is nonstop. It's something that you start today and it's never going to end. And you're just going to keep coaching as much as possible, always looking for the next opportunity to coach. And you're going to engage in those coaching conversations, those chats, and help people really learn to solve problems and grow as an individual. And so you really want to stay people focused. And really, people are the key to your success. And it is your job as a leader, and I put Yoda on here because he, as a leader, he was always telling Luke Skywalker that, he was the one who needed to do it. So you, as a leader, it's the same thing. It's not your job to do the work. It's your job to make sure that you're building and empowering your team to step up, not to do it all yourself. And so you want to remember that you need to keep building your trust by being consistent. You're going to coach on a regular basis with your team. You're going to continue to communicate often about the coaching that's going on and about what you're seeing, and asking those questions and listening on a regular basis. And then really stay people focused. And the more you do that, the more success you will have with your team. And with that, I will hand it back over to you, Cynthia. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emily. What a simple and great message that you give to us. Now, I should be showing my screen, and I believe that my screen has disappeared. Oh, there we go. We have Emily back next month, April 15th. She'll be working on communication skills that work. And what's great is that it's going to build on what she's been talking about today with us on coaching. So come back and listen to her on April 15th on tax day. We couldn't believe that she was willing to do it on tax day. That says she's going to be ahead of the game. So Emily, thank you for your message today. It was very simple and very to the point, right on to the point. So we appreciate you for that. So folks, if you want to hear this again, just go out to businessperformanceusa.org. Be sure to sign up as a member, and then you can watch the webinars. All you have to do is go and search on Emily's name, and you will be able to find her webinars. But also browse around. You'll find all kinds of folks out there that we've been hosting here at businessperformanceusa.org. We've been up for just under a year now, and we've been doing Tuesday webinars to bring great, insightful business information to you. So go look out there. You'll see all kinds of things. Now, next week, we will have Nancy Lynn Roberts up. She will be joining us to talk some more about background screening. She is an expert in the industry, and it's information that I've learned quite a bit. She's been with us. This will be about her 7th month, I believe. Every month, she gives us more information on background screening. With the laws changing as rapidly as they have, the kinds of things that are going on, if you have employees, you really, really want to be sure that you are understanding exactly what your role is with regard to hiring and so forth and so on. Or if you have renters, she also talks about renters. So next week, Nancy, and then back after that will be Kenna, who'll be talking about social media. She's been doing a great seminar on that. So folks, come back and join us. We are happy to have hosted you today. Go out and make it a great day. And with that, I'll be shutting down the session. Thanks, folks.